Hello, puppies and kittens. As we move into November, I'd like to talk about one of the holidays. Not Halloween, which may surprise some of you, nor Christmas either, even though some stores already have their Christmas stuff up, even though it's not even Halloween yet. No, I want to talk about Thanksgiving. Not the holiday as it is currently celebrated by Christians, being based on a mostly mythical story that was made up to conceal a horrifying atrocity, but the way I celebrate it. Nobody's surprised when an atheist celebrates Halloween, and a few still celebrate Christmas for the secularized Santa Claus midwinter festival and commercial exchange that it has become. I don't bother with most holidays anymore, but I still hold to Thanksgiving. How can an atheist even have a Thanksgiving when there is no one to give thanks to? Well, there's an old song that I remember from decades ago that said, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." And when I heard that as a kid, I remember thinking, well, that's stupid. You should appreciate what you have while you have it. And you should appreciate who you are while you are that, and where you are, and when. Because when I started celebrating Thanksgiving my way, it was just 100 years earlier that my country, the United States, was an awful place to live for most people. Women and Native Americans didn't have the vote. Children worked in dangerous factories up to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, without overtime, sick leave, insurance, unions, nor regulations for safe food or housing, before leftists gave us benefits like Social Security and weekends off. That's how much things can change over the course of a single lifetime. Over the course of my lifetime, practically everyone had more money and cooler things than I did, but I didn't envy them. Not even when I was homeless, when things were at their worst, because no matter how bad my situation was at different times, there were always people, other people, plenty of people who were worse off than I was, enduring more than I ever had to, maybe even more than I could. So I didn't wish to be as well off as these people, so much as I was always glad that I wasn't suffering as much as these other people. I've never been rich, never going to be. But I'm 60 years old, and I think I've had a pretty good run. I can't say I have no remorse, because I'm not proud of everything I ever did or said or believed. But I can say that I have old friends who were very forgiving. A few lovers like that too, former lovers, of course. And more importantly, I strive to be a better person. More knowledgeable, more compassionate, more tolerant, less self-centered and judgmental. I'd like to think that I'm a little bit better every year than I was the year before, because it's always a process. Social media, for me, is a lot like stepping into a massive coffee shop with plenty of familiar faces. And I like to see people sharing their hobbies, their vacation photos, and talking about whatever they're enthused about, just like you would at any social gathering in the real world. But at the same time, they're often putting their real lives out there, which sometimes includes sad stories and even tragedies, when someone gets fired or loved ones die or you find out about a devastating diagnosis. I sift through Facebook, and I feel so lucky that I'm not in the situation that some other people are, that I've managed to avoid, such significant tragedy for most of my life. And we can just keep it down to pet pics for the most part. You might be an awesome person today, but get chopped down to your knees tomorrow. So don't wait until then to pine for what was. Appreciate what is and enjoy it now. And I realized that, apart from some notable privileges and advantages, that much of my happiness is a state of mind. It comes from having a positive attitude. I know people who don't have that. Now, we could be in a wooded park in the month of May as the sun sets and the fireflies begin to twinkle here and there. I'll say, "Isn't this lovely?" And they'll say, "It'd be okay if." And then they'd find something to complain about, something they'd say wouldn't be too good. Because there's no point in saying, "Oh yeah, well, what would be too good?" Just remember that that person has never once said anything was great or wonderful. Never once in their whole miserable life. At best, it would be okay if impossibly perfect standards were met. That person has never been happy, ever. Sure, there's a negative aspect to everything if you're determined to find something to bitch about, and such people seem unable to acknowledge when there's good in there too, even when it far outweighs the bad. You think it's bad now? Just remember, it could always get a lot worse real fast. Maybe that'll change your perspective. Back in high school, I knew a guy with a plaque on his wall that read, "He who refuses to accept anything but the very best very often gets it." But that's a lie. No matter how good something is, there's always something better. And you'll never get that. So he who refuses to accept anything but the very best will die disappointed and dissatisfied. And they won't have anything either because they couldn't get the very best that there was and they refused to settle for less than that. So you don't get nothing. For example, you might enjoy your 10-passenger ski boat, but there's always a $600 billion yacht you couldn't get. But since you refused to accept anything but the very best, then you didn't get to enjoy that ski boat either, stupid. Do the best you can, get as good as you could, and make the most of it. Above all else, appreciate what you got while you got it. And that goes for relationships and professional positions as well as property. Show that appreciation. Do it right, treat them right. Take stock in what you got, what you're good at, and what you've made, what you're involved with, the people that you've worked with and influenced, the children that you've raised and are proud of. Everything that is still good about your life, whether it is your spouse, your house, your job, the country and time in which you're lucky enough to live, or whatever. My Thanksgiving is when I take stock of all these things to appreciate them. Sure, there are things I could complain about. My house is too small, I got no money, whatever. But let's not even bring up the environment or the State of the Union. If we only concentrate on the negative things, that I know people who do, then what would that do to the quality of life? It's like if you're a cop and everyone you meet in the course of your duties is always lying to you. I feel like over time that would diminish my humanity. We could always bitch about how some things aren't as good as they could be, but I prefer to take stock of how good they are, how good it is. Pick your perspective back up again. That's my Thanksgiving. Doing that makes your life better, I think, because at least you enjoy it more. And this may sound like bragging, and okay, it is. We're talking about Thanksgiving, my version of Thanksgiving. Although I'm sharing this with you for illustrative purposes, I'm only bragging to me to remind myself about what I have to be thankful for. Even if I'm only thankful to my patrons or to my beloved wife and partner of 13 years who helps me do what we do so that we can be as happy as we are. Sometimes there's no one to thank, but I'm still thankful that some things happened to turn out as well as they did. And I want to remind myself of all that. For example, I still have my health despite my age. It's important. And this is a big one. I get to do what I love for a living. That's still a struggle to keep out of the red, but I'm working from home and I am my own boss, and that's just as great as it sounds. And it's hard to believe that it ever happened for me. I'm proud of my kids, both biological and adopted, each for different things, even when I can claim very little credit for what they've achieved on their own. One of my daughters is a professional scientist on a master's program, and another is a Navy vet who put herself through school to become a nurse. Of course, I'm proud of that. I love my pets, dogs, my cats. Everybody's a rescue. My parrot, all of our adorable snakes. I love my motorcycle. Best built bike I ever had. And I've had a lot of motorcycles in the past, and unlike all of them, my Victory Vegas has this weird quirk that every single time I hit the starter button, you know what it does? It starts. That alone makes it better than every other motorcycle I've ever owned. I love my Jeep. And this admittedly immature toy from beyond the Thunderdome is my favorite car that I've ever had. I've had a couple of fun cars in the past, but I don't live in the past. I like right now. My Thanksgiving is about where, who, and how I am right now. So, for you, regardless whether you think there is someone to thank for whatever assets or situation you currently enjoy, even if you're sitting at a table full of family who are all doing the traditional giving of thanks to their God, remember, even if it's only privately, to take stock of all you've got going. Know how good you got while you got it. I think that you and those around you will be happier for it. Happy holidays.
I said, don't it always seem to go you've got till it's gone.